Good morning. Two hands here. I've done pocket sevens, pocket eights. Now we're going to do pocket nines. These middle pocket pairs can be problematic for people, including myself. So we're going to work on some of these pocket pair hands for the next several times. I'm on the button. This is a 10NL game. And we have early position under the gun limps. And then we have middle position limps, and it's to me. So first, under the gun position player. Unfortunately, I have four hands on both of these players, so it is going to be complete unknowns. All that we can really do is assign a range and exclude hands that we're pretty certain people will raise. So I think under the gun, probably going to raise something like that. Maybe king queen suited, ace jack, king queen off. I think they're going to be limping their suited aces, suited broadways. It's these king queens, maybe they have them, maybe they don't. Same thing with ace jack. But 21%, I think overall their limping range is going to be fairly weak. Even under the gun, may drop out these one gappers. May drop out these offsuit weak broadways. So maybe something like that for just the under the gun player that's 16%. That's okay. What about villain 5? Villain 5 might be about the same range. I think what we will do is start with the same range and then add in a few more hands. Since we already have one limper, let's add in a few more of these hands that he might call. Just, speculative hands, something like that. And I have nines, two black nines. So with this hand, you can see with both ranges, nines are going to be at the top of their limping range in terms of the pocket pairs. They have these overcard offsuits, but we still have a pair, so we're going to be pretty good against them individually. Against them both, we're probably going to be about 40% or so. So I think this is a good spot to go ahead and raise. Why I don't like limping here is if we limp, we'll probably get both of these players. At least villain 1 will limp, and villain 2 would probably also just check. So we'll go 5-way with pocket nines. We're basically looking to set mine at that point. There's just so many cards out there that any overcard is going to start to cause us problems. So by raising gives us a chance to pick up these blinds, and if called, we'll have position on everyone. So I think with pocket nines, with the strength of the hand, let's raise for value, build up a pot, and expect to take it down later in the hand, even if we don't hit our trick nines. That's what I did. I raised 5 big blinds, and both of these players call. Now, are they going to call with the same range that they limped? Probably. They may get rid of maybe some of these offsuits. It comes down to this first person. Once he limps, I think it incentivizes this guy to limp. So we're going to leave these ranges the same. I'm not going to modify them. We could kind of reduce, king 10 or queen 10. Could fold those, but we'll leave them in the range. All right, so flop comes 2, 3, 6 with 6 diamonds and 2, 3 of hearts. 6 diamonds, 3 hearts, 2 hearts. So overall, this basically misses both of their ranges. The only cards that we're going to be looking at will be the heart draw. So first guy checks, second guy checks. I think they're going to be checking with their entire range. I don't have any donk flop statistics. Most people aren't going to bet. If they do donk, they probably have a 6. So unless we have some other notes on them that says that they do it otherwise with a different hand. So at least with the 6, I do think that I am ahead. I could check, but what if a 10 or a jack or a queen comes? I'm kind of risking some of my equity by giving them a free card. If I bet, are there other hands that these players will call? Yeah, I do. I think the flush draws are going to call. I think the open and straight draws, the gut shots are going to call. I think maybe the ace highs are going to call, depending on how these players play. I mean, they both limped. That suggests to me that they're probably weak players. So if they limped in early position, it's entirely possible that they're not going to believe that I have a pair, so they will call with their ace high hands and possibly even their king high hands. So it's to me, I think we should bet. How much should we bet? I think if we bet 2/3 or more, 2/3 is probably a default until we know how they're going to play. If we think they're going to call with the same range, call 2/3 with the same range as they call 3/4, then I think you go larger. If they start to contract the range at 2/3 pot, but they call with a wider range of half pot, then I think half pot's going to work. So I kind of hit 2/3 pot. Maybe it would be okay. That's about what I did. So 11 big blinds. This first guy folds. Get him out of the way, and this second guy now calls. So let's go through. Let's go through what this player might have. So he calls. So we're going to give him the flush draw. We're going to give him the gut shot. I think we're going to give him all the ace highs. We're going to give him all of the pairs plus. That's 56.6% of hands. Could we do kings? Maybe. I think if we do kings, we're going to have to probably modify it. What about overcards? Overcards is a lot. Now players will do that. They'll call and hope to hit. But he has overcards in the form of the heart draw. He could, if we put in 2-card backdoor flush draws, he could be calling with overcards with the diamond draw. So, that brings it up to 62.6. I think we'll leave it a little bit wider. We're still at 63%. We shouldn't be worried yet in this hand. So the turn brings 5 of hearts. And the only thing that changes is it now completes the flush. Completes the flush, and it could complete a gut shot. So, ace 4 now it just has a straight. We look at 6-4, completed a straight. 5-4 now, already had the straight. So let's see what happens. He bets 10 big blinds into a 38.5 pot. So that is actually a pretty small bet into a sizable pot. Question is, what is he looking at here? I would think that a straight flush could be doing that. Betting small to try to get calls. I'm not sure if all of the flushes are going to bet that large. Maybe a straight. I think a set might do that. 2 pair, maybe, with like a 5-6. I think an overpair may have raised. Top pair, no. I don't think the draws are going to be betting any of that. So I think this is going to represent a made hand, so some sort of overpair plus. I would think that he would have bet larger if he has some sort of flush draw, because he's looking at, especially if he doesn't have the nut flush draw, he'd bet larger to try to prevent that 4th heart from coming out. That's how players will think, because it's not just preventing it, but that if you bet, the ace of hearts will probably call, so might as well make a larger bet if they're going to call that. So you're not really like trying to force people out. You're just rationalizing that if they're going to call, might as well make them call for a bigger amount when they're the underdog. So right now, against this range, I'm at 17%. I don't have the 9 of hearts. I think even with a small bet, unless you know that this guy is going to bluff, maybe he has ace of hearts. Maybe he has ace 2 with the ace of hearts, or ace 3 with the ace of hearts. Unless you know something like that, I think will probably just fold. we should probably fold. He called 2/3 pot bet on the flop. He had something. He had at least some sort of draw, and now both most likely draws hit the heart and that gut shot. So I think we should fold. I didn't. I called, and then the 10 spades hit, and now he bets 14.4. So he bet another small bet. And the question is, what is he gonna bet small again? I mean, maybe 2 pair plus. I don't. I think he's got at least 2 pair plus. The question comes down to these other big hands. Straight flush. Flush straight. Would he have bet larger? And in a lot of ways, it doesn't really matter because we had pocket nines. Maybe pocket pair below top pair, 7s and 8s. Maybe bets that small. Maybe 7 because he picked up the gut shot at that point. Or the gut shot draw. Maybe, but would he have bet 14.4 again? Something small. This is just looking like, hey, I want you to get called. And the way the betting sequence, when he called the flop and then he led the turn when these draws hit, I think we're probably behind. I think we're behind to too many hands in his range to make this a profitable call. I did call, so let's see what he shows. He had Jack 4. I don't even have Jack 4 in his range. Jack 4 is all the way down here for his opening range. He limped and then called. This guy is a very loose player, but his straight kind of makes sense, and the way his betting makes sense. He's afraid of that flush, so instead of betting more to try to kind of get ace of hearts to call a larger bet, he's betting small. So unfortunately, we didn't have it. We will say limp called pre-flop with Jack 4 off from, we'll say limp called pre-flop with Jack 4 off from MP. Don't turn when gut shot. Okay. Add a note there so next time we see him, we have a better idea of how he's playing. All right, so this is hand number 1. Let's close things out and get hand number 2. Hand number 2 is a 20 NL game. This is a 6 max table. We're 5-handed, so folds to me, and I open raise with 9s. I think that's perfectly fine play. Big blind calls. I've got 20 hands on him. He is currently 29, 29, 29 all the way across. So 29%. If we look at his blinds percent, so he's called 50% in the small blind. He is 0 for 1 in the big blind. I do think he's going to be somewhat heavy in big cards. That's typically, I think, what I see in 6 max. Although I don't play a whole lot of 6 max. So we can kind of give him a range that's looking like mostly big cards. Whether he has these offsuit aces or not is questionable, but definitely I think all the broadways in a 6 max game, suited aces, suited kings, these suited 1 gappers, maybe even the suited 2 gappers. 9s are going to be doing okay. We're in the middle of the pocket pair range. You're going to see overall we are about 60% against this range. So this is 28.8% against this guy. I'd say he calls a little bit wider because we are in a steal position. Now, what about the 3 bets? I think we can take out Queens plus. We can take out Ace King. His fold to steal is 50%. 3 bet steal right now is 50%. So 3 bet late position steal. He's done it 2 out of 4 times. He may be doing it with some of these better cards as well. So Jacks plus, Ace Queen plus. That might be a little bit better. And he may be mixing in some of these small suited aces. So 24% overall range. We're at 64% once we eliminate those 3 betting range. So we see a flop of 10 of diamonds, 4 diamonds, 2 of clubs. He checks, which I'm going to say he checks his entire range because I don't have donk stats on him. And it's up to us. So what should we do? I do think this is a pretty dry flop. I think we're kind of betting for value, and we're also kind of betting for kind of as a bluff, as a semi bluff. We obviously want to get some hands that have equity against this to fold, yet at the same time, this board's going to be hard for him to hit. And it's also, if you think about how likely it is to hit me, it's also not going to hit me very much. So I think if I bet and we think about what he's going to call, he'll probably call flush draws, gut shots, maybe the 2-card backdoor flush draws. That'll give us the overcards, ace high hands, weak pair hands, top pair plus. I think he's going to probably be fairly wide, maybe. Right now, his fold to c-bet out of position is just 0 out of 1. So, if we go in this thought that maybe he's going to call because this board probably missed me, then he may be doing something like this, and he may actually call with all the overcards too. So all of the broadways. And that's probably decent. So 91%, that's super wide. But we'll go with it. So I bet half pot. Could I have bet larger? Yeah, I think so. I probably should have bet larger. Probably should have bet about 4.5 big blinds, so around 2/3 pot. If he's gonna call, he's gonna call with probably this entire range because he doesn't believe me. So he calls, and right now against that calling range, we're at 60%. 5 of diamonds now connects. So out of the flushes, that's only 7%. And I have the 9 of diamonds. So he checks, and the question is, should I bet again? I think with the 9 of diamonds, we probably should bet. I think he's going to raise us. He might raise us with the set, might raise us with the made flush. Might raise us with a nut flush draw, so ace of diamonds. And when we look at those, I mean, all of those, the nut flush draw is only 5%, second nut flush is 4%, third nut is 4%. Maybe he raises with those, but I don't think so. I think that's a pretty aggressive play that's relying on me not calling with the diamond or not having the diamond. So, the ace, if he had the ace of diamonds, I think that would be a pretty decent bluff. Check raise here. You're representing that you had the diamond. It's going to make people, they're going to think, or I would think, okay, do you really have the flush draw? Would you really make that check raise? I think it's believable. I think there's too many people that might call. So against the right type of person, you make that check raise with the nut flush because they're not going to believe you. But here, I think that might be a decent bluff. So should we bet or not? If we bet, let's see what's going to call. So I do think top pair is going to call. If they call this, not believing that we had a 10, the 6, 7, 8, and 9 may still call again. The middle pair, probably not. Weak pair, probably not. Ace high is probably going to give up at this point. We'll say the flush draws, the nut and the second nut. So these, the ace of diamond, king of diamonds hands are going to call again. Gut shots, probably not, and the overcards, probably not. So I think if we give them that range, we're at 35% equity. If we take out pocket pair below top pair, we're at 24% equity. I don't know if we bet if we're going to get folds. Yeah, the kings, those overcards are going to give up. So, they're going to be folding 49%, 48.5%. But if they call, we're going to probably be behind. That being said, I do think we should bet here because we're going to generate a lot of folds. We're going to generate, 40%. And, if we think about, going into their whole range, we're at 59.8% right now versus that whole range. We're basically hoping to dodge a diamond and an overcard. I think that's what we would be hoping for. So I don't mind being aggressive here, betting and picking up 13 big blinds, but you might also check and see what develops. Now, the catch, I only have 20 hands on him. So before you check, you have to look at the river probe bet. This guy's probe, 1 out of 1. So if I check here, he may bet the river, and he may bet it as a bluff. And if he bets it as a bluff, we have to be prepared to call. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We bet now, and we probably get a free showdown, or we check and we may have to call a pot-size bet on the river, just to keep him honest. I think I'd probably bet here to avoid that probe situation, especially with nines. If I had jacks, queens, kings, or aces, I think you could check and then call the probe, because now the tens could be a hand that he would probe with, and maybe even the middle pairs and the weak pairs. I check behind, so we've got his entire range still, and then 7 of spades hits on the river. He doesn't probe, which is interesting. So that kind of tells me that he probably doesn't have a flush. I would expect a flush to bet. I would expect a straight to bet. So probably even a set would bet here. Maybe a set would bet half pot, just to try to get to showdown for half pot. Same thing with 2 pair. I think top pair might just call, or might just check call. Pocket pair below top pair, check. Maybe check call, middle pair check call. Maybe all of these would be check folds. So when we look at potential hands, actually I'd say top pair probably too would probably bet to try to get some value here. Yeah, he's got a showdown hand, but and maybe he is thinking that if I bet, he's just going to call. Let's add weight. Let's do that at 50%. Let's do our 2 pair at 50%. Where he's hoping that I bet here. Oops, 2 pair at 50%. Something like that. So maybe something like that. I mean, we're still ahead. If we bet what's going to call, I only think tens are going to call. Maybe 7, 8. Maybe that middle pair is going to call. So 9, 7, 8, 7. Top pair is definitely going to call. 2 pairs definitely going to call. Pocket pair, middle pair, maybe. Weak pair, no. So if we bet and get called, we're at 30%. I think it's probably better just to check behind and take the free showdown. So he shows 5, 6, which that would be a weak pair. Does he have it? We have 5, 6 in his range, but he actually has 5, 6 offsuit. So we can add in these offsuit connectors into his range. Still kind of matches how he would play. He called with the gut shot, and then he caught middle pair, and instead of betting, he just went. He just checked and checked again. I'm not sure if he would have called again. I'm not sure if he would have called again. So we can add it here. So called 2 bets from the blinds range, 6-5 offsuit. It's in the notes. That was this hand. So. No point in updating it. All right, so we didn't quite have this hand in, but we added notes. We didn't have this first hand in either, the Jack 4 off. So if you like this, look again tomorrow for a couple more hands.